So today I'm meeting with Shimon Sandler. It's a bit cold and a little bit dark outside, but it's going to be an interesting conversation. Shimon Sandler is the president of Sandler Digital. And we're going to talk about a pretty cool stuff that we really haven't discussed much about in these previous vlogs. One is about like how to build an agency and then kind of how to get repeated work from your clients over and over again. So really about building and sustaining an agency in the SEO, SEM space. So obviously some of his history. He's been in the SEO space, I don't know, for probably about almost 20 years or so. He's been through it all. He worked at Did It. He worked at a bunch of other companies, sold a business, and so forth. So he has a lot of experience, and I'm hoping you enjoy this conversation. Okay, Shimon, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. They're cold.
Thank you for having me.
So it's I think like 34 degrees here. We're at my house, so I think you appreciate for coming out. You're about 30 minutes away, I think, or so. And SEO is so important to you that no matter how cold it was or how hot it is, you would be here talking about it, right?
You're important to me.
Oh, thanks. Anyway, I appreciate you coming out here. And could you tell people in that camera who you are very quickly?
Yeah, my name's Shimon Sandler. I've been in the SEO and really digital marketing space for about 20 years. And maybe about 8 years ago, I started with a partner. I started a company called Search Interactions. We grew it very successfully, had about 13 employees, and then we just sold it a few years ago. Since then, I've started. I'm out of contract, so I started another agency called Sandler Digital.
Awesome. Okay, so I've known you, I think, almost for a pretty long time in this space.
Yeah.
But you've been doing like this digital marketing stuff for like about 20 something years now, right?
Right. Right.
Your first company, what was that you were at in terms of, you were like 20 years ago?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Prior to that, I was really in sales and software sales and IT sales, and I really did not like being in sales.
But that's what you do now, right? You know?
Kind of, yeah, full circle.
Okay.
But so I ended up getting a job with this company called Digital Grit. And it was really a biz dev position. But I was excited because, digital marketing about 20 years ago was in its kind of infancy. Being in sales, having developed, create PowerPoints and talk to all the account managers, I actually just from being there, I started learning SEO.
Right.
And I realized hey, I like this so much better. I'd love to sit behind a computer. I don't have to deal with people. So then I do, but
So then you kind of move from do you do any SEO at that company or not really? Digital Grit?
No.
And then you moved into Did It.
Then I went to Did It. Yeah, I met Kevin Lee, and
so Kevin Lee was sitting right around there. We're not sitting today because it's freezing, and I figure we'll just if we sat, we just get stuck in the chairs.
Yeah.
So Kevin Lee was here. Smart guy, right?
Very smart guy, and also Dave Pasternak.
Yes.
He's Kevin's partner.
Right.
Worked there for a little bit of time. And that was really pay-per-click. It wasn't SEO. And they had Maestro, was their tool. And I spent a little bit of time there. From there, I wanted to get into actually go on the client side. I got a job with a vitamin seller. And this is not on the resume, not on LinkedIn. This is just it was a temporary thing. But so that was my first job working for the client, and after that was a rinky-dink operation. So after that, I ended up going to Wiechert Realtors,
right,
which is big. They're across the country, and I was responsible for SEO and pay-per-click. Again, this is still in the early days, and that's where I met great guys like Avi Walensky, and that's when I guess going to search engine strategies conferences.
Right. That's probably around time we probably met or so.
Yeah, probably around then. And I got a call by a recruiter. They said they have a position in the city. I was working in New Jersey. They have a position in the city for a company called Universal McCann, part of McCann Erickson.
Right.
So, and the pay was a lot better. It was a lot more exciting to me working across a lot of large brands, and again doing both pay-per-click and SEO. And then from there, I can't believe you want me to keep going through my resume. Well, it's a long journey.
Yeah, I mean, you can speed up. But Viacom, I think, right?
Viacom was a great company I worked for. Yeah, that was the last company I worked for before I started Search Interactions.
Right.
And that was fantastic. As a matter of fact,
right.
You got a little work for there.
Yeah, I appreciate that referral. So we did a bunch of their early apps when the App Store's first launched. So
Exactly.
appreciate that.
Yeah, that was a fantastic company to work for. Met a lot of great people, a lot of smart people, and I still have a lot of great relationships that I've made from that, company. And but it came to a point after maybe about 3 years working there, I said to Ellie, I said, "Dude, get me out of here. Let's start our own company. Let's start an agency." And he was like, "Okay." No hesitation.
That's Ellie, right? Yeah.
So while I was working there, and this is interesting because this is how I started the agency really. We started it while I was working there. And I had some consulting clients on the side, so brought them in. Ellie had some clients, brought them in. So we had a little business going on. And then I thought, let me contact some other small agencies. I was just thinking fast growth, maybe we can acquire somebody.
Okay.
We didn't have any money, but I was thinking, let me put some feelers out there and see the reactions I get. The first company I called, they had, it was like a joke. They had like 100 employees. And it was a nice conversation, but it wasn't happening. The second one was a hit, it was a home run. I contacted this agency, and they had a strong front end, meaning like sales team, but their back end was really weak. And we had a strong back end, but our front end's really weak.
Right.
So it seemed really like it dovetailed very nicely. So he had no interest in selling his company, but he said, let me give you a client or two, and I'll try you guys out.
Okay.
And that worked out really well. We ended up getting maybe like 5 clients from them. And at that point, it was decision-making time. It was like, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to move into the agency world and quit Viacom, which was the security of a paycheck?
Yep.
And I have a family, and
I think I remember you making that decision, like, I'm doing it. I'm going out on my own. I'm really going to do it. And then you did it.
yeah.
It's a hard thing. A lot of people think about that, and doing that and making that jump must have been really hard for you.
It was. I actually ended up asking a lot of my friends, my smart friends, who I really respect their opinions, and every single person said, "You should do it." One person actually said to me, "You'll regret if you don't do it." So I needed the buy-in from my wife. I couldn't just say I quit.
Right.
So she was a little nervous about it, but she said fine. So I resigned from Viacom and went full force at Search Interactions.
Right. So that went well. You had that company for how long?
It was about 5 years.
And then you were able to sell it for a boatload of money.
I wish.
But you did sell it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we did sell it.
Yeah.
But since I had experience working on some of the other companies we didn't cover that I worked at as an employee, it was Warner Music Group, right? I already mentioned Universal McCann, Viacom. So I was used to working with large brands. And that's where I was going for. I wasn't going for the local SEO. I wasn't going for the plumbers and the electricians, even lawyers. I was staying away from that. I was going after, really, it was media and entertainment was my focus. I know everybody's hitting up e-commerce, companies. And we had some e-commerce clients. We actually had a bunch, but that's not where my focus was. My focus was really on big brands. As far as how large these organizations are, a lot of times it's very difficult to find the right person,
Right.
or people. Sometimes it's a team of people you have to pitch to. We did that really well. We ended up. Well, here's another thing. I'm going to go back a little bit. The transition from employee to agency owner was really difficult in one area, really. Well, a few areas, but one area that stands out is the transition from a doer to like just trusting people to do it, and I just go, stick with biz dev because I'm responsible for growing the agency. Fortunately, my partner Ellie is, great, and also had experience with an agency because he had one in Israel.
Right.
So I remember hiring our first employee. It was actually Ellie Orgel.
Okay. I know the guy in the video.
Shout out to Ellie.
Okay.
And I guess trust. I've known Ellie for a long time, both Ellies, Ellie and Ellie. Known them for a really long time, both of them. So the trust factor was there. But then when we ended up hiring someone who we, didn't know, I mean, trust is such an important part of who I want to bring on my team. That was hard, just letting go of the work and trusting that it's going to get done and get done well. In the early stages, I was still kind of in that transition, so still kind of doing client services work, strategy, but I was more heavily involved in growth. And that's kind of the same way it is today. I'm still heavily involved in growth and involved in client strategy and helping the team.
That's cool. So
yeah,
I know what you're feeling. I run my own agency. We don't do SEO and PPC. Thank God. No offense to those who do it. We do web dev and mobile development. So it's more like, I need something built. Can you build it?
I use your app every day.
Well, I appreciate that. We saw your data. I'm just joking. I'll sell your data. But so yeah, it's interesting. And obviously, the first couple hires are probably some of the most important hires you have, because that's what sets your company culture. And how hard people work, how devoted they are to their projects and the clients. So we'll talk about that. I know one of the topics you wanted to talk about was how to necessarily build an agency. And you have experience doing it, I guess, a couple times. I'd like to discuss that.